Right, people, welcome to the first episode numero uno of this Anomalous pod series that we're sort of beginning here, where I talk with my best mate and co-host Oscar Knight about random topics. So how you doing, mate? How are you today?
I'm scared.
Yeah, man, it's
That's
scary. We were saying before we started how weird it is, just like the fact that we've clicked a button before chatting makes it seem even scarier. Do you know what I mean?
it just reminds me of when I had to go on this morning and all that time ago. It's a similar feeling of just having a camera in front of you, or it's not, or just your voice recorded. It's just weird. But
Yeah, I
we'll
mean,
get used to it.
luckily you've got me instead of Dermot O'Leary today.
That's true.
Do you know what I mean?
That is true.
But yeah, so the format's going to be today is I'm sort of going to be interviewing you in a kind of way because the people that have watched a couple of my videos know a little bit about me, not loads, but they don't know anything about you, and we'll sort of just elaborate on some points that are made and have a decent little discussion about life.
Yes,
Do you know what I
sir.
mean? So I think we should start with like how we met. How do we know each other?
Ooh.
So we obviously it's through the sport of wheelchair basketball. So let's go into how did you sort of start doing that and what got you on court initially?
Um. Basically, with my condition, basically I had sort of a phase where I was really bad. I went to a rehab to get my legs basically working again and to try and overcome the pain. Um, so then what happened was once I came out of that rehab better, I then had a relapse and then my legs got worse again. So to avoid me from putting on weight, which was a big problem for me the first time around, my
Mm.
mum decided to search for sort of wheelchair sports clubs, whatever really, anything that would, get me active instead of sort of sitting at home. And yeah, basically the Plymouth Storm at the time popped up.
Mhm.
I must have been about nine or 10, and now 18. Played a long time.
Yeah, man, you're a veteran of the game. You know what I mean? So what is your condition specifically? Obviously, I know, but the people don't. It's CRPS, isn't it?
Yeah, so CRPS stands for Complex Regional Pain Syndrome. It's to put it simply, it's a nerve disorder, and it usually comes from an injury, and the nerves are just sending pain signals to my brain all the time for no reason. So it's just like from the shin down on both legs, it's just constant pain for no
That's
reason.
helpful of them, isn't it? That's
Yeah.
really great. Thanks for that, legs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, yeah. So yeah, we. I mean, I mentioned it like briefly in the video, but I didn't really elaborate on it. Like my condition is mild cerebral palsy in my legs. Bilateral diplegia is the fancy scientific name.
Oof.
And I don't experience the same pain, and I don't have like as much difficulty as Oscar does. But I just basically walk like a penguin, and my arse sticks out. That's how it affects me, kind of thing. But we both met through the sport. I've been doing it since the age of 8, so you
A
nearly
little
know.
longer than me.
Well, actually, I don't think so because you're a year and a half older than me. I think we're about the same. About
You
the same.
reckon? Oh yeah, I suppose so. Yeah.
And I started at Exeter, moved over to Plymouth with Oscar about 3.5 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, that's the. God, that's a long time now, isn't it? Fucking hell.
But we were sort of, I would say, and I think you'd agree with me on this, that we were mates like on a kind of a surface level for a couple of years.
Definitely, there was a bit. It was a bit like frosty's probably too harsh of a word, but like we were friendly acquaintances. We weren't really
Yeah,
like
that's what I was going to say. It was at the good acquaintance level on the
Yeah,
friendship hierarchy. Um,
definitely.
and coming over to Plymouth helped, obviously, because we saw each other more when we were at different clubs and we'd only play at like junior stuff. It was more
Yeah,
difficult, so we were better at
it was a
Plymouth. And then
bit awkward.
recent, yeah, a little bit. And recently, over the past year and a half, it's got a lot better. Because I would say because of stuff outside of basketball,
Definitely,
because of how we see the world, how we live out our lives. Do you know what I mean?
absolutely.
Because our circumstances are similar, different in ways, but similar on a lot of levels, and therefore the way we live our lives is quite similar. We agree on a lot of different things, and we have quite an anomalous mindset.
I
as I would
suppose so.
say. Do you know what I mean?
I'm gonna avoid trying to say that word because it never comes out right.
Yeah. So
Let's call it the A word.
yeah. So how do you think your circumstances have led to the kind of mindset that you have, and what is that sort of mindset? Because I know all the time when I ask you about, you know, how you take on the pain that you have constantly and how you take on certain situations in your life, you always say like, Joel, it's a mindset. So elaborate on that a little.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, a lot of I tell you what helps really, and you know, a lot of people get very confused whenever I say this, apart from you, because you know you kind of understand that suffering is important for development in life, and we don't want suffering, but it's the only way you can progress forward, really, and it's the only way you can learn. So, like early in my life, I was ill in terms of like you know I had a disease called Kawasaki's disease, which nearly killed me when I was about 4, and what that is it's extremely rare. You only get 2 cases a year here,
Wow.
and it's basically inflammation of all the major arteries and blood vessels, basically. So I was just like constant fever, internal bleeding, all sorts was going on, and you know I still remember that night that I nearly passed, and you know that's something that's always stuck with me from that time till now, and I think that you know that's a big contributor to you know what I'm like now and the mindset I have now.
Mm.
And then obviously going forward with the pain and stuff, that it's you know for me it is always about a mindset, and it's always to not let whatever it is that's bugging you become a part of you in terms of like you know it's your identity. Because I see a lot of people with conditions like mine who you know they play on it and they talk about it a lot, and that's you know and it as a result it's worse because it's constantly on people's minds and they're constantly being spoken about, and they're talking about their pain medication and how badly they're affected. You just got to
Yeah.
push through it, and it's a mindset, like I always say.
I think it's an interesting approach for like everything in life to view it as like this is an experience.
Mm.
A phrase I like is like is either a good time or it's a good story. Like
Yeah,
even in the moment, horrific things that can happen to people end up being sort of the defining moments in their life.
the make or break is like really, isn't it? It's like you know it's the same with anything. It could be you know a person close to you that dies, or you know whatever it may be. It's you know it can either make you strong, or you go down the other path of spiraling out of control. And you know that's something that I nearly did probably early days with my illness. Was you know I had depression. Had put on a lot of weight, and I'm, as you know, I'm a naturally very skinny person, and it's quite
Mm.
hard for me to put on weight. But you know I just wasn't doing anything. You know that.
Yeah, it's easy when things aren't going the way we'd imagine them to be to sort of get that of like what's the point?
Yeah.
What's the point in carrying on? And yeah, I would agree with that statement. I mean, the surgery that I had a couple of years ago showed me that a lot. I changed a lot through that. I looked at, you know, life in a different way. I feel like when you suffer quite a lot in any shape or form, it changes your perception of normal life.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You just sort of you're glad to be not in that extreme all the time. You know,
Yeah.
simple things then become you know beautiful.
Well, what kind of things did you experience in you know in your sort of recovery? Because obviously I know that you spent a lot of time in hospital, and
Mm,
you've told me certain experiences that you've had there.
mm.
What were the moments for you that sort of I don't know made you think, I suppose, or
Well, it was what was interesting is that I had no idea what I was going in for,
mm,
like with this surgery. I had no idea what you know because they told us what they were going to do, obviously, but they hadn't really elaborated on how weak I was going to be afterwards
yeah,
or what the pain level was going to be like. And I think what I realized is they do that because I think if they told people the outcome of these kind of things, then I don't think people would do it. Um,
mm,
but obviously, like nowadays, years later, I'm grateful for going through all that because it's helped my legs a lot. But yeah, it was worse than I thought it was going to be. Obviously, people are in a lot worse positions than me, but for
Yeah.
me, like that night, the night that I had my major surgery, which was they took muscle from my quad and put my knee back together, and they released my hamstrings and my hip adductors and all that.
Yeah.
The pain relief that I was given was an epidural, which
Mm.
pregnant women have when they're giving birth by a cesarean, and it
Serious shit.
basically completely numbs your body from a point on the spine that
Mm.
they choose, and it completely numbs your body. And mine came out of my back. It's like it's sort of the way I'd imagine it is like a pin that goes into your spine, and it's like a cut off point of like the nerves from underneath this point on your spine
Right. Yeah.
will not send messages to the brain, kind of thing. Um, and mine came out somehow when I was in bed a couple hours after my surgery, and that meant that that first night, um, I didn't have I had very little pain relief.
Mental.
What's interesting is I don't actually remember it that much. I don't like I think my brain is sort of hidden away how it felt, kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah.
All I really remember is like bits like images of people's faces and like
Right.
sound, but
Yeah.
I don't have like a vivid dream like sort of like narrative in my mind of how it went.
Okay. Yeah.
That was the main sort of climactic moment for me. But I think what was more poignant and that I can remember better is living in a hospital environment, living around
Yeah.
a lot of pain and a lot of suffering, and I
Yeah.
think
Definitely.
what it taught me is that things like this can bring out the best in people.
Yeah.
Like even the people that weren't going through things, like it showed me the power of kindness and how if this horrible thing wasn't happening to me and other people, then maybe the kindness from others wouldn't have occurred, kind of thing. So I think
Yeah.
the underlying point here is that like suffering through a different perspective can actually be seen as arguably a good thing, even though at the time it's horrible.
It's kind of like once you look back on the suffering, or this how I look at it when I look back on my suffering, it's obviously the suffering itself, like we said earlier, it's not desirable. But once you make it through that suffering, that's the desired part of it. Is that you've come out the other end, either a
Mm.
changed person or a person with perspective, and you can, you know, you can use your experiences to, like you say, spread kindness or whatever it may be.
Mm. I think there's no growth in the comfort zone. There
Absolutely
isn't
not.
because it's comfortable.
That's
And,
it, exactly.
the things that we've just talked about are very very large extremes of that exiting the comfort zone. It's
Yeah,
different realms from the comfort zone. It's not even the comfort zone's miles and miles away at that point.
absolutely, yeah.
But I think the lesson that can be drawn from that is that suffering's helpful to grow. It's necessary. It is
Definitely.
necessary in life. And I think a lot of people, like the way, I don't know if it's the way we're educated or just like social norms and stuff, is like the human experience in the modern day is like we have to try and avoid suffering.
Yeah, and
Um,
I think even trying to avoid, like, I think it's unavoidable, really, no matter what sort of level of suffering. Obviously our levels are quite high, but there's always going to be some form of suffering. Like, I probably between sort of when I first sort of had to start going back to school, when I had sort of, I don't know, I'd relapsed. I was out of I was out of touch. I hadn't seen friends for ages. I go back
mm,
into school in a wheelchair. That's another hurdle in itself. That's another thing you've got to
mm,
try and get over.
yeah,
And that in itself, that for some people could be, trying to, whatever it, like, if you're off school or whatever it may be, that might be the bit of suffering you have to go through to then try and get better.
mm, yeah. I think what you said that was significant to me is that suffering is inevitable. And then
Yeah,
what I just thought about is like the fact of like avoiding suffering in itself creates a different kind of
that's
pain.
it.
Like
Definitely.
to your example of like going to school or whether in a wheelchair, it's like, do I take on the suffering of like, what are people going to think of me and how that'll make me look to others, or the suffering of like not seeing people or
That's it, exactly.
whatever. So I think it's like both sides of the coin.
That's where you can use the phrase that you love using is pick your sacrifice.
Yeah, man, it's so true. It's so true. Like you have to pick your problems. You can't really avoid problems.
That's it.
Like and it's your viewpoint. It's your viewpoint on the problems that help. That is the most important thing. It's how you view it. It's not what happens. It's how you view it. Because I think we've talked about this in the past, but like the moments we look back on that were horrible, we're actually really grateful for now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think I'd be normal, and I think I'd be normal if I hadn't had the weird, not very nice things happen.
Well, not the word normal though is quite,
You're right. Yeah,
it's a blanket term, isn't it? Because like you might look at a normal person, you think, oh, they don't seem, they just seem pretty boring. They work a 9 to 5, they do this, they do that, whatever it may be. And then I think everyone's got a story to tell. No matter how.
Actually, you're very right. That I would agree. There is no such thing as a normal person.
But you wouldn't be against the grain.
Phrase of like, if I didn't go through those things, my life wouldn't be as enriching as it feels.
Yeah.
It wouldn't feel it. It would feel so much more mundane and monotonous.
That's
rather than normal. You know what I'm saying?
Totally. Yeah. No, I agree with that as well. I think before I became disabled and stuff, so I was a avid footballer. Terrible in school, like like grades and stuff. Like I was, I'm not smart on that front of things. But I think if I didn't have the disability, I would have just gone for. I would have played football, done this, done that, and then got to the end of school or whatever, and just gone bit stuck here.
It's mad, isn't it? That like one thing can completely change the trajectory of everything.
Yeah, and finding basketball and then progressing through it, like there's a point where I was sort of stuck in the same spot, and then all of a sudden just skyrocketed. All of a sudden I was getting invited to GB camps, scoring a decent amount of points a game. These things wouldn't have happened without the initial suffering of getting a condition and then becoming disabled.
I think that was the sacrifice that you didn't necessarily pick, but the universe picked for you. It was like, this horrible thing is going to happen to you, but this is what you'll learn. This is what you'll learn from it, and this is what you'll earn.
Absolutely.
This is the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
It's how you see the world, and it's opportunities. Like, doors may close, but other doors open. Like, we've always got doors in life. There's always opportunities to do something, and what presents itself to us I think is a result of things that aren't in our control and things that are in our control, and it's mad when you think about it, man. Like, the significance of decisions.
Yeah.
From the tiniest level up of like how sometimes I'm like journaling or whatever, and I like reflect and think, like, well, what has actually led for me to be here? And it's just so many tiny little decisions and so many massive, poignant like hinges in the narrative of my life.
Yeah, and that's what's good about journaling as well, because you can review it, and for as long as you've done it. How long is it now? How many days are we up to?
I can tell you. Let me open. I think it's 681 days.
See, I'm at like I think I'm at 171 or something, 171. Which is, I felt good, but 600 and whatever's rather a lot. But that's a lot of days for you to reflect on as well and look back on and go, oh, I did this is what I was thinking. Decisions.
In 20 years' time, our difference of 500 of it is going to feel like nothing when we've got
that's true.
Thousands, you know what I'm saying? So I want to go back to the suffering point, just quickly, and
Yeah,
I want to stress, like, I was having this thought the other day of like, well, I've had this thought lots, and we've chatted about it, that like, to get to a level of happiness and fulfillment in life, we should actually look for it in small little ways.
definitely. But again, the term suffering's got such a bad connotation that you
I
think,
mean,
well, what do you mean? Why would I want to go through these little bits of suffering?
true,
What's the point?
true, true.
And then, bang, cold showers.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. It's. I think it's quite subjective, isn't it? If you ask someone, do you think taking a cold shower is suffering?
They'll go, yes, it's hell. Why would you do such a horrible thing?
Yeah. Or like even on a smaller level, like, eating vegetables.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like, yeah, compared to, you know, a sweet milkshake, mate. It's your taste buds are suffering,
yeah.
but it's
Your
good for
body's
you.
loving it.
Yeah, it's good for you, and it's true. I think the same thing with exercise. It's like, which, so I think a person that doesn't exercise often would call it a form of suffering,
Definitely.
especially the kind of workouts that me and you both do at times, where it's like
Yeah,
the the main objective is to feel pain, feel
that's
like you're
it.
gonna
Yeah,
die.
and I've known so many people throughout life who just like avoided exercise or avoided little bits of suffering, and it just you can just they just don't really progress in anything. It's just kind of the same, whatever it may be. They could be gaming all the time. It could be I've known far too many people who unwasted potential, I suppose, and
Mm,
everybody's got whether
mm.
you're good at something or not. You have the potential to go out for an early morning run or
Oh,
have a
mate,
cold shower in the morning.
that is a point I'm definitely going to elaborate on in a moment, the potential thing. But yeah, I think it's a huge shift in a person's view on their life when they notice that, one, like, discomfort is unavoidable.
Hmm.
Two, that you can harness it to do good things. You can harness it to better yourself.
Yeah,
I think the people that have realised that doing things that are undesirable and less pleasurable are the right, are can be beneficial,
yeah,
are in a completely different league, completely different. They're seeing life through a completely different lens.
definitely.
You know, but yeah, so little acts of suffering, mate. That's what it's about.
It
Suffer slight,
is.
just small amounts, small amounts.
You'd think after all the suffering we've had, that the natural human response is no, stop,
we just,
please,
yeah, we
no
just want to
more.
hibernate. Just
Oh
hibernate eating
dear.
Doritos, man. But no, no, I'd rather not, man. I'd rather not. Because that's the thing. Like, the more you do something, the more you sort of get used to it, and the more you don't want to leave that. Like, I
Yeah,
think when you realize how good it is to, like, suffer through exercise or a cold shower, or
yeah,
reading a book or eating broccoli, the more you do that and you realize that it's better for you, the more you actually look at doing the thing that's pleasurable in the moment as that's suffering in itself,
yeah, definitely.
like untapped potential. And
And that's it.
I'm not talking like, grinding and beating yourself up about it 24/7,
Hmm.
but I'm talking about, a good balance of both things. It's like, I can't, I'd struggle to be happy if I couldn't
Yeah,
grow in some way. If I can't be stagnant anymore. And I think
yeah,
before all the things that happened to me, like, how many years, 6 years ago, and then, I jumped up again 2 years ago. Like, if I hadn't been through that, I think I would be able to settle. And
yeah.
I realized that nowadays I can't settle.
Right.
And
Yeah,
that's a
yeah, yeah.
blessing and a curse. But I can't, I have to always be getting somewhere. I need to be on a path,
That's
and
it.
suffering
Yeah,
is an inevitable part of that.
that's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Um, one thing that I was thinking of with the word potential, because
Mm.
I feel like potential is such a the word itself is again it's a bit misused. Like when you look at potential, you think young sporting people, Oh, that player's got great potential there, but ooh, when I say potential, I mean every human's got the potential to do something which, outside the comfort zone, may be suffering, but like I said, everyone's got the potential to do a cold shower if they want to. Everyone's got the potential to do an early morning run, or a little bit of exercise, or a gym session. Find a sport you like.
I agree. I think two things about that. One, I like to think, like, when I'm in a good balanced headspace, like, I wake up in the morning and I think every day has the potential to be sick.
Yeah, and
no matter what you're doing.
Sometimes it might not be.
No, but the potential's always there.
That's it. There's always the potential, like,
and that I think on what you said of, like, everyone has potential to do X, Y, and Z. I agree. I think in certain, obviously there's exceptions to every statement, but fundamentally we choose what we do with our time. And like, if you care enough about something, you'll do it. You always have the potential to make some kind of move, and even choosing to not make a move is choosing to make a move. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
remaining stagnant and not having this nihilistic perspective and staying in the comfort zone, which most people probably know isn't great for them. Like, that's itself, man. That's a choice. But what were you going to say?
I'm not gonna lie, I completely gone.
All right, no, that's all right. So but potential of life as well. Like, I think there's the microcosm of the individual day, and there's also, like, the macrocosm of the entire life. Like, obviously it's easy for us to say this as we're very young, but, like, the amount of time we actually have in life is mental.
It's a lot, and there's actually a lot of people are like, God, like, life's so short, you've got to live it to the full, which is, living life to the full. That's right, but you actually break down how many years we have left. It is ridiculous, really. Like, it might be short, but it's a certain frame of mind, isn't it?
The way I see it is, it's like both long and short.
Yeah.
Because I think the reason it's seen as short is because it ends. Like, I think anything that ends, well, this humanly experienced.
You mean this realm that we're in?
Joel Clifton is going to be no more in about 100 years. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
So I think that's the reason. It's like the fear of the reason people think it's short is because it will end, and there'll always be they'll worry about regrets and whatnot. But the actual time that you have, like, is, even if I hope that I'd still be saying this at 37, 47, 57, like, because the amount that's happened like, in the past 5 years, to me, is just ridiculous. I can't, and I think life, well, my mum always says that life gets better as you get older.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that. In terms of, like, it's obvious life gets better because obviously you've got the opportunities and you've got your teen years, and you can, it's vital development. I'm sounding like a 6-year-old here, like I've gone through it. I'm still a teen.
We are old, though, aren't we? And, we have quite old mindsets, kind of thing. It's good. I think you're more settled in yourself the older you get.
Yeah, definitely. That's what it is. And then you just don't care. I see it in my dad a lot. My dad just, he just doesn't care what people think of him.
Honestly, not giving a shit is so powerful.
And I think that happens once you get over, like, I think that's a key part of enlightenment, isn't it? It's just being comfortable in yourself and not putting on this character.
I think, how many people do you think, like, I count myself in this as well, maybe not all the time, but a lot of the time, of, like, they're acting, man. They're,
Oh, God, I'll put myself in that bracket as well. I think, like, I think it's extremely difficult to be yourself around certain people, and I still think in a way, like, there's probably elements of ourselves that we've not really, like, I'm probably the most myself if I'm chatting with you.
Likewise, man.
But there's probably still a part of me that isn't, showing itself. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah, no, I
There's
agree.
still a part acting, if you know what I mean. And then it
I
even
think,
goes back to parents and stuff like that as well. You put on a bit of a persona for the parents too, and
yeah.
that's all it is. It's mad.
Well, yeah, I think everyone, I like the Shakespeare, the quote of all the world's a stage, and
Mm.
all the men and women are merely players, and in his time, every
Yeah,
man plays
definitely.
equal parts or whatever he says. You know what I mean? Those kind of things of like, yeah, like I think the self actualization, enlightenment, these ideas are all really just like, do you know who you are? Because I don't think we can ever really understand know, but how close are you to knowing who you are, and are you that
Yeah.
person in all of your scenarios? And it's
Mm.
so hard, it's so hard,
Yeah.
and I think that's one of my biggest goals of the future is do more things that bring out who I'd like to be.
Yeah.
I
And
think I think it's easier to be who you'd like to be than be who you are in a way. You know,
definitely. Yeah. And I think like it's probably the hardest thing you can do in life is be yourself.
yeah,
Like
it's such a
it's
paradox, isn't it? It's
it
so
really
weird.
is because like only you know you. That voice in your head is the
Mm,
one that knows who you are and how you're really feeling
mm,
or whatever it may be. And like you go through. Prime example. I went through secondary school, trying to get the persona of I think every person does this, tries to be funny, tries to be popular, whatever it is.
climbs that social hierarchy. Yeah,
Yeah, that and it just like I look back on that and I'm just like, oh god,
it's
ah,
fundamentally unfulfilling. Isn't it? It really is.
yeah,
It's like it's fake, man. You're living out someone else's life that's not yours.
that's it. And trying to get gratification from other people from getting a cheap laugh. Like
Mm.
it's it's not sustainable, and that's why you need to have gratification within yourself first
Mm.
before anything.
I think you'd agree with me on this. Like when you meet an elderly person, I think
Yeah,
that's what you feel. Even if, like, in their life on the material world level, they haven't done amazing things and achieved, loads of massive goals or whatever. When you speak to them, you know that they are who they are.
yeah,
They're not
definitely.
putting up a front, and I think the underlying happiness when I meet, a really happy older person is that
Yeah,
they don't have that guard up, and I think that's the biggest lesson I think young people like us can learn from older people.
definitely, 100%. Because
It's like
like,
that. It's the lacking of giving shits vibe.
that's it. Yeah, for
They
sure.
don't care.
I mean, like, yeah, like thinking about it, every old person I've met is, just genuine. They're just themselves. There's no, and like that could be anything. That's like, you get some older people that are like, um, brought up through a phase where something might not be socially accepted now, but then it was, and then they're still being themselves,
Mm.
blurting out all this nonsense, and they just don't care.
The lack of shits given is
Yeah.
admirable. Yeah, they are just there's a calm, there's an inner calmness. I remember, and also a gratitude for life. Like two things. Firstly, I'm glad that we know this at our age. Well, we're aware of this, and we think we know this at our age because the earlier I think knowledge is power. The earlier you can learn something, the better it will serve you later in life.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, on that note of like a gratitude of old people have that gratitude of knowing who they are and the amount of life they've lived. I remember meeting a guy in I think I told you about this in like a foresty like nature place in
Oh yeah,
Cornwall,
yeah, yeah.
and he we got chatting to him and he told us that his wife died and stuff, and he goes and walks in this place every day and meets strangers and stuff, and he told me that he told me and my granddad that he was brought up in a home with no hot water and stuff, and he'd bring hot water back from school and all of this, and
Yeah.
they lived through the war, and it's just mental. And then he just sort of he at the end of all this, he was just like, I'm so grateful to just be here,
And
you know.
yeah, that's another prime example of suffering to and then getting to the point where you are and looking back and going, you know what, I made it past it and it's made me a better person.
I think there's so much power in being grateful for just being alive,
Definitely.
and suffering brings that.
Always.
You know, on
Always will.
a small level, whether it's getting out of a cold shower, or on a huge level where you have life-defining moments.
Well, I think the suffering with the cold shower is in it. Once you get out of it, it's like, ah.
Yeah, yeah, man. It's the thing. You're just grateful afterwards. You're just like, I'm alive.
Yeah.
You know, I'm here right now. I think that's another thing that people, especially our age, like they can not consider it because it's become so not really talked about. Just the fact that you're alive. You know,
Yeah.
you're here right now. You could not be here. You could be dead.
Yeah.
You could have just not existed. But
You
you're
won the
here.
race.
Yeah.
You won that first race.
You were the fastest sperm, you know, in that ejaculation, man.
And that in itself is crazy, isn't it? And then
Yeah, man. There's billions of those little guys, and you know we were rapid. Do you know what I mean? But yeah,
nice.
it's crazy. Like, I want to go back to as sort of a last point about mindset towards life.
Yeah.
I want to know what do you think of my theory, and I think we have touched on this before. That like, we don't actually live in reality, like external. The road that I'm seeing outside my window right now, or the tree or whatever. That's not actually what we live inside of. We live inside our mind that views that.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. The term that's thrown around a lot with that as well is virtual reality, isn't it? That's like the sort of like the eyes are the goggles that you look through, and that's just what you're seeing. It might not even be the case. You might die, and then it's just like, oh,
yeah,
it's nothing. It's like Truman Show.
yeah,
Everything's
man.
just.
I think that's why two people can have the same experience and be completely different afterwards. The
Yeah.
exact same experience separately and be completely different.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's also why the most important thing to work on in your life is your mind,
Yeah.
because it's sort of the door in which everything comes through. You know, you've got you and you've got life on the outside, and the door in between that is how you view it.
Definitely.
And it's through things like suffering and that change that mold that veil in between life and you, and I think it makes it better.
Definitely, for sure.
And that's why that's why mental health is so important.
Definitely. And I think, like, again, mindset really, like, mental health is a serious problem among our kind of age group, and a lot of it is just mindset at the end of the day. Like, and I was extremely anxious through secondary school, and in a terrible environment in terms of, like, I wasn't learning anything, teachers weren't very helpful, all this stuff, and the mindset was just like, oh, what's the point? Why do we have to go through this process? It's a load of shit, basically. And that's the mindset. Whereas you look back on that and it's like it's helped, but also the anxiety could have been avoided. It could just be like, what, it's not really real anyway. Nothing's.
Yeah, I think honestly that the pathway that reality has to come through, which is your own mind, has so much weight. Like, talking about anxiety there, like, the more and more I push myself out of my comfort zone and do things that I'm afraid of, I realise it's all in my head.
That's it, and then the anxiety's gone once you've done it.
It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah, that's for sure. That's like, what's an example of that for me? I had a really good example of being anxious about something.
I find it socially.
With
like,
you socially?
Like, it's whatever, like, random mundane things of, like, a guy in the gym, you want to go and chat to him, whatever, and you're absolutely shitting yourself beforehand, and then maybe you do muster up the courage and you go and talk to him, and you have that little chat, and you you maintain eye contact, and it's all
Yeah.
good. And then afterwards, you're like, why was I even? Why?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what the hell, man? It's like also, I think, for me, going back to school when I'd taken 10 months off and
Yeah.
work from home, going back there, I was shitting myself, man.
Mm.
Like, I was like, it was mad. And then 2 weeks in, I was like, Joel, what are you on about?
It's
I
all
think
fine.
people don't care. I think that's the thing. Because we live life through our own mind, it's so easy to think that we're the center of the universe.
Yeah.
It's so easy to think that everything
We're the main
happens to us.
character. That's
But
it.
it's not. It's not that we think there's some spotlight on us, but it's really everyone really only cares. Everyone's number one care is themselves.
It is, and that's even the case for the most loving and
Mm.
empathetic people. There's everybody's always seeing it out of their own mind and their own self. I don't think that will ever change, ever.
Mm. Yeah, I think you can't. I think people like people that can care so much about. I think it can hurt people when they don't realize that they actually need to look after themselves.
Mm. Yeah.
Like do things for you, do things because
Again, though, it's a balance, isn't it? It's
it's all a balance act, man. Life is.
doing things for you. You don't want to do things just for you, and then oh, that
Mm.
guy's so self-centered. He's
Yeah,
always doing this, this, and this. You
I
want
think the best paths in life are things that benefit you and benefit other people.
definitely.
I think if you find something like that where you're fulfilled, like you enjoy something that benefits other people, you've won.
Yeah,
That's the
definitely.
recipe for the top level of existence. So like, if there was a message to people listening right now, I would just say like, your perception on life is more important than life itself. And obviously, there's exceptions to this case because some people are in absolutely horrific circumstances that I would have no idea about. You know what I mean? But for the
Yeah.
majority of human beings that have somehow come across us and listening to this conversation and have got this far, like, they have the potential to view their life in a more positive way and have a sick time. And realize that the things that happen, whether they're good or bad, are really serving us.
Yeah,
It's just in different ways.
definitely.
It's
Everything
just
happens for a reason.
yeah, man. I do. That is such a thrown around cliche term, but I think
It is.
the more and more I live, the more I agree with it.
Yeah.
And I think even if someone isn't fully wholeheartedly like I agree, the contrary to that is there's no reason behind anything, and that's just
Yeah.
the recipe for feeling crap, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
That's the recipe for nihilism and resentment for life.
Yeah.
So I think that was a great first conversation.
Yeah.
I think that's given the people an idea of where we're at with things. Do you know what I mean? This is who we are. So I think what I'm going to say is, if anyone's got this far, I respect it highly. Honestly. Do you know what I mean? If you're still here and you're hearing me right now, you're sick. You know what I mean? I rate you highly. I think also what I should say is, future episodes, if people have any questions they want us to discuss, or questions about their life,
that's a
then
shout.
let us know in some way through a comment or a message or whatever, because I'd be interested to discuss some things that people want to hear. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
And I thank you, Oscar Knight, for being here with me,
That's all right.
chatting some shit. Do you know what I mean? I think in future we'll get a couple guests on from various places. You know what I mean? Interview some anomalous
The amount
people.
of people going through my mind right now.
I know, bro. We've got options. We've got options, and yeah. People, let us know what you think and what you want to hear. But from me, all I want to say is thank you for listening. You got anything else to say?
Thanks for listening to the waffle.
Thanks for appreciating our waffle. All right, people. We'll see you next time. Probably next month. I think we should do this as sort of a monthly. Try and get one of these out a month. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I
Get
think
it out
that'll
there.
do.
So, yeah, thank you, people, for listening, and we'll see you next time for more.
All right.